Hello, thank you for watching this video on creating media-rich presentations. Why was I motivated to do this project? The move to distance education during the COVID pandemic has been a catalyst to accelerate the shift to an increasingly online world and provided an opportunity to develop video production and remote teaching skills. Like the paradigm shift that's underway in the entertainment industry, educators can expect to continue to interact more over the network than we used to, even after restrictions are lifted. For the last year, I've had an asynchronous class with 160 students. They do readings and activities, participate in discussions, and do a final project. I wasn't lecturing, and several students suggested last semester that some people are missing personal contact, and suggested that I add videos to demonstrate that I'm a human and care about their process, and to bring the content to life. We are now operating in an attention economy. In a world of continually shortening attention spans, teachers face the same dilemma as advertisers. Our student customers are awash in a sea of content and messaging, and we may assume that most do not want to watch our video lectures. Some research suggests that our attention spans are down to 8 seconds now, less than goldfish. We have very little time to fascinate our students before they switch off and swim away, and they will get bored quickly if we ramble on. 95% of my students are non-majors taking my Survey of the Music Industry course for GE credit. I want to help them develop transferable skills that are crucial for future success in a world of accelerating change in whatever field they enter. There's little point in making video lectures if students don't understand and retain the information. I wanted to help them learn how to process, store, and retrieve information from memory. So how did I do the things I did? I wanted to design the lectures for portable devices. They live then in a world next to all the students' favorite content and apps, so it has to be engaging. I wanted to try to make it a personal, intimate kind of talk. Use large fonts if they're going to be watching it on their phones, and felt like I needed to be some kind of showman with little bits and raise my voice and gesticulate and be dramatic, and also incorporate multimedia with sound and animations and different colors. You can get free sound effects on freesound.org. I used one of the self-regulating learner techniques is to make time estimates. So before you do an assignment, you make an estimate of how long you think it's going to take, and then you go back later and review that to see how long it actually ended up taking. And by doing this frequently, you become more accurate at making those predictions and putting away distractions and focusing on things. Parkinson's law says that the task will expand to fill all available time. So by setting a time limit, you often end up with as good a result as if you devoted a lot more time to it, and it's just more efficient. I've made a consistent color palette. I use this kind of salmon color for time estimates, and I use the same sound effects, so that clicking clock you always hear when you make a time estimate. Hello and welcome back. Thanks for watching these videos. I hope that they're interesting for you. Today we're going to talk about copyright. Before we do that, however, I want to give you a chance to do a review of your time estimate from last week. How long did it take you to finish your social media message activity? Was it about what you expected, less or more? Making these time estimates and reviewing them afterwards will help you be more accurate and efficient in planning your future study sessions. Assignments are in blue. Knowledge surveys are in green. A knowledge survey is something you do before you study a topic to see what you already know about it. It kind of prepares your subconscious and your conscious for what's coming up. It alerts you to what some of the important points might be, and you can combine this with making confidence estimates. So when I ask the students how many kinds of producers there are, and then they estimate on a scale of 1 to 10 how confident they know of the answer, and then after they've studied the material, they go back and see if they knew as much as they thought they did. Most of us think that we know more than we do, and making these confidence estimates and realizing that we don't know as much as we think can make us more open and interested in learning new information. Memory recall is one of the best ways to study. It's much more efficient than just reviewing your notes. I tell students it's the best way to raise their scores a letter on a test. So we often go back and recall information and pull it out of memory. The process of pulling it out of memory is going to help solidify it. Here's an example of that, and I'll have this little graphic with the construction workers saying to stop the video and do something. So they're supposed to stop at this point whenever they see the highway worker giving them that sign. So, of course, copyright's a bundle of rights, and this is one of those things that especially the non-majors don't come away knowing that, and income streams from publishing. There's some things that I've just found that students don't retain it when the lecture's over. I was a little concerned about the emphasis on learning skills in a music business class, but so far I haven't had any pushback. Students seem to enjoy the techniques, especially the non-majors. I have a self-reflection assignment at the end of the semester. Got a comment like this time. This class made me do and learn in ways that other classes have not ever before. A lot of the assignments in this class were connected by using our memory or referring back to other chapters, and this made information stick in your mind more. The learning techniques were very thorough. Without these techniques, I would not have been successful. And here's another. I've noticed I started doing some of the techniques now. The main one is seeing how long it will take you to complete. It hit me last week that I was doing it without even knowing. I started timing myself at work with some of the duties I do on a consistent basis to see if I could do them faster and better. So these time estimates are showing to be useful for some of the students. You can add animations, and each time you click, you make a little bit of the text move. So for a call to action, I want them to stop here and identify where the call to action is in this social media post. You can have a variety of different backgrounds. Mix it up each week. I have a different background, and then they can look through the thumbnails of all the different lectures and see which ones they have already watched. I like to use different kinds of transitions, swipes, make jokes when I can. Here's a little pulling into the frame. All right, welcome back. I'd like to show you around Canvas. So let me climb inside here, and there we go. Pay special attention to this assignment's due date calendar here. I would bookmark it if you click on assignment due dates. There's a list of the assignments with the reading and activity, discussion, and final project there. And at the end of each lecture, you see the same graphic and you hear the same little music clip. It's easy to create a Google form to collect feedback and then to link the survey for them to fill out after watching the video. This feedback, combined with looking at the analytics for the videos, has been helpful in revising the approach over the course of the semester. When asked, what did you find most interesting? What techniques are helping your learning process the most? One student said, walking through the steps of how to do the assignments. Others said, I find that the length and sound effects make it easy to pay attention. The graphics are also useful. I found it interesting that you added some humor to keep me engaged. Some techniques that are helping me is that you explain things very well. Online learning has been hard this year, but being able to watch lectures is very helpful in understanding the topics. So this was a little evidence that I'm achieving the goal that I'd set out to connect better with students. Part of the project was setting up the corner of my studio to do this work. I got a green screen. I put a webcam on a tripod so I wouldn't have to look down at my laptop all the time. I put some lights on the background to make the green screen work better and not drop out. Got a ring light around the webcam to focus on me as I was talking. I got a lavalier microphone. It's not necessary, but the fan in my computer sometimes turns on and creates noise, so I got a little clearer signal that way. I plugged the lavalier microphone into an audio interface, so that's an extra piece of equipment. You could just use the built-in microphone in your laptop. As far as software, I use Keynote instead of PowerPoint, but it does mostly the same thing. OBS is really the key to it all. It's a free program that's cross-platform, and it's for recording, and eventually I'd like to learn how to do streaming with it. I use Camtasia to touch the videos up. If I need to adjust the volumes of the little clips, the media that I'm playing back relative to my voice, if I have some problem and I have to stop and go back, I'll do that in Camtasia. Handbrake is a program that does video compression, and it makes the files smaller for archiving purposes, and they also update a lot faster. So I found it quicker to take the time to compress a file than to wait for a large file to upload. At our school, the files go to MEIEA, and then that links with Canvas, our instructional platform. On the right here, you see the OBS recording window. On the left is a browser window, and so one of the inputs to this scene in OBS is a Chrome browser window, and so I switch back and forth doing the transitions in OBS and controlling those with hotkeys, and moving the cursor over and clicking on the Chrome window and advancing to the next slide there. In OBS, these are the video settings that I used. There's no point in creating a higher resolution than you're going to broadcast. And I found that by putting everything on one screen rather than using two monitors, I had less lag. My processor isn't really fast, and so I'm not able to use two screens at once. You can create different scenes in OBS. You give them whatever name you want, and you can switch them with different kinds of transitions. You can change the transition duration. You can control the switching from one scene to another with hotkeys. So here I am looking at just the keynote presentation. If I type a key, it brings me back. Type another key, I got big. And then I go back to just the presentation. And then I go to me and the presentation. And so that you can do on the fly with one hand while you're controlling the slides with the other. That power of OBS saves you a lot of time going back later and doing a lot of editing. I find that the more editing and post-production time that I have to put in, the less willing I am to do this work. So I really wanted to come up with a workflow where when I hit the stop button on recording, I was pretty much ready to just upload the video. This is one of the advanced audio features in OBS. You can set your microphone to record on both audio channels, so that doesn't come out of just one speaker. If I did make a mistake, or I really want to go back and fix something or check the audio levels, I can touch it up in Camtasia. So there you see in the timeline the video. I've done some editing there and done some overlays of graphics. Handbrake is the compression program. As I said, it speeds up the uploading if you've created a smaller file. There's a few things particular to Apple. In order to capture both the audio from your microphone as well as the system playing back whatever is on your video clips or music that you play, you need to go into Audio MIDI setup and create a multi-output device. And then in your sound preferences, you set the output to multi-audio device. And then in OBS, you set the input to I Show You. It's a separate little program. It's free, but I don't do this every day, so I've made a checklist so that as I come back to it once a week, I don't have to spend another half an hour scratching my head trying to figure out the little tricks. And then part of the checklist is when I'm done, how to put everything back to normal. Here's the Audio MIDI setup where you set the multi-output device. There's the sound preferences in Apple to set the output to multi-output device. And so in the workflow, I create presentations in Keynote. I record the video narration over presentations in OBS. You can do a little post-production of videos in Camtasia, compress the videos with Handbrake, upload the content to Canvas through MEIEA, and then go into Canvas and create a page and link to that for the MEIEA player. and then send out an email once a week to students pointing to the new resources. There's a number of things can go wrong in this process if you don't set the permissions correctly in MEIEA or you don't publish the page in Canvas, then all your hard work is for naught. So again, it's good to have a checklist of all the things you have to remember to do. So what were the results? I was inspired by one of my friends who makes physics lectures, and each person has their own style, and she is much more dynamic and charming, and she is also willing to spend a week per video making these that look more like they're for PBS or outer space programming. But this is an example of what she did that overlaid her image over the presentation.
Our Milky Way galaxy in profile looks like a UFO or a pancake. We identify 3 major areas: the galactic disk.
So it's almost like the weather lady. She can be watching her image and making sure that she's not covering something up, and has a script. Over the course of the semester, I posted 2 videos a week on Canvas. One was a very quick why, how, and what we were going to do for that week, to tell them about the big picture and give them an overview of what the assignments were, and then make a separate mini lecture from 5 to 20 minutes, depending on the complexity of the topic. By separating those 2 videos, I'm hoping that in future semesters I'll be able to recycle the lecture content, and all the dates and the particular things that are happening that semester that are in the why, how, and what can be changed without having to go back and re-edit the lecture, the content that probably won't change as often. Before I would start making a new video, I would look over the comments from the forum. And for example, one student early on said that the sound effects were too loud. So I toned those down, and things like that are helpful to get the student's perspective. See what the analytics are on how many people are watching and for how long. And then at the end of the semester, there's a self-reflection, and take that information and think about what to do for the next semester to start fresh. And as far as future directions, I'd like to continue to make videos. It took years to become more effective in the classroom with students. I think it's going to take as much time to really master how to use this medium effectively. So this is just an introduction for me this year. I made it a goal to do over the course of COVID, and I'm expecting that we will be continuing to teach online more and more, and I might make some content for my face-to-face classes or put some of these mini lectures on. I'd like to learn how to connect OBS into Zoom so I can stream that way. Zoom is kind of getting to be a tired interface, and just having being a little one of the heads in the corner of the screen is not as interesting for students, and they tend to zone out quicker that way. I'd like to make the videos more interactive, stop periodically and ask them questions, collect the feedback in a form, to give people more of a reason to watch and benefit from them. I may incorporate a teleprompter. I've experimented with a little bit. You can put an iPad horizontally, and it reflects off a piece of angled glass that you look through into the camera. If I could do that, I would write a script more, because the more time that you prepare, the less time that you then have to repeat and go in and edit. It's like writing an outline for a paper, and I think it would come off a lot smoother. And then I could also use the script for captioning for people who don't want to be having the sound turned up or are hearing impaired. So I'm going to experiment with that in the future. In the same way that I set up a corner of my studio for Zoom conferencing and video production, I'd like to set up a space for recording and performing, because I think that this is going to become just so much more standard, even when we're able to go out and perform in public. One of the things that I get frequently commented upon in the reflection at the end of the semester is students consistently say they wish they'd handled their time more. And I think it's such an important topic. And so after I've incorporated learning techniques, memory recall, making the videos more interactive, I want to start focusing on time management. I've done a little bit with that with the time estimates, but I think it's a really important area that students will be interested in. So thank you very much, and see you next time.